The Dauntless Technician First Class. Harriet Dubois hated being off the ship. She and nearly every other woman on the Dauntless did not like it. The aliens were a bunch of patronizing, overinflated, desperate bimbos with no idea how things were supposed to be. Logically, she knew that this is simply the way things were among aliens and that trying to hold them to human standards was stupid. But that didn't stop her from being absolutely pissed off at them, which meant she had a problem as she had now reached her time off the Dauntless. Admiral Cistern was slowly rotating everyone off the ship and her turn had come up. Leslie had come back with horror stories. The woman was a dyed-in-the-wool feminist, or rather dyed-in-the-hair feminist, and had tried to find support, only to be laughed at or lectured about how she doesn't know how good she's got it. She had tried to start a fight and had been dragged back to the Dauntless. She still had a week in the brig to go for doing something so stupid. She had visited her friend a few times, but the rants she made were circular and at an ear-piercing shriek. If not for the fact that there were so few women on board, then she would seriously consider cutting off what friendship she had with Leslie. That, and she could be truly horrible when she felt slighted. "Hey, me and the guys are heading out. You want to come with?" Robert Mason asks, or rather Bob, as he keeps insisting. The transformation of the nerd squad from awkward, bumbling dweebs into all-around charmers had been nothing short of a miracle. All the more reason to believe the rumors swirling around Sir Philip. "No, I'll be fine. I need to think," Harriet remarks as she veers away from them while still descending on the ramp. She wasn't lying, she really needs to think. Her whole life she wanted to be taken seriously, regarded as just as good as the men, but it's backwards. The galaxy belongs to women, and men are to be cared for. It's so strange. She can't even fully process things as she holds up her communicator. It's been attuned to the alien apps and frequencies. It serves as her bus pass and credit card at the same time. It takes only a few minutes for the bus to arrive. She wants to see the whole city, and a good first look is through the public transport. It's fairly empty. A couple overinflated human-looking women. The Tret, as they're called. Some freak who's basically a bat with tits. A little green girl with pointy ears that redefines the term short stack to the point she's more a square. She huffs to herself and looks out the window. The driver of the bus is in a personal little box and cut off from everyone else, which is a good idea if someone gets a stupid idea and tries to go after the driver. She vaguely wonders what's driving the bus. The box is big enough to fit just about any race she casually knows about fairly comfortably. And with how controls can be modified, there could be anything in there from a praying mantis woman to a bowl full of slime that's also somehow a woman with bigger tits than her. Because that's just how the galaxy works. She's ugly, plain, weak, and ungrateful for what she has. Fuck. The galaxy was like a slap in the face to her. "Excuse me, young lady?" someone asks, and she turns. It's one of the Tret. A normal woman who's smuggling watermelons in her shirt and pants with flawless skin, shimmering hair, lips so full they need nothing to enhance them, and fluttering eyelashes. "What?" she asks, and the overinflated bimbo sits down next to her. "Are you all right?" she asks with concern. "Excuse me?" she asks, and her mind goes back to that idiot back on Earth. She had put some extra care into looking good that day, and he asked if she was hurt. It only got worse as the jackass had explained he thought she was covering burns or some other kind of scar. Just as rude, condescending, and obliviously stupid as this new idiot. "Darling, you're clearly sick in some way. This transport doesn't have a hospital in its route. You want Route 43. "And how am I clearly sick?" she demands, higher and louder than first intended. "I'm a nurse and training to be a diagnostician. Your skin is sallow, hinting at a very long period of malnutrition and high stress, which is also reflected in your hair. You're outright anorexic, with clear signs of prolonged dehydration as well. Why have you been starving yourself?" she asks. "I haven't," Harriet protests. "Child, you're nearly dead," the nurse counters. "Don't call me a child, I'm in my 30s, she snaps. "Furthermore, I think you should look more closely, possibly at this." She nearly spits out, pulling out her identification and access card for the Dauntless. "Oh, you're one of those humans? I apologize. Your kind resembles mine so very closely. Just looking at you makes me feel like you need help," she explains. "I'm Gigi. What's your name?" "Harriet," she says bitterly. How about I make up for my rudeness by showing you around a little? Your race is very new to the galactic scene after all, and there's so much Centris has to offer for any woman looking to distract herself, Gigi offers. And I look like I need distraction. To be honest, I can only see a terribly sick woman, but if you're off that ship, then you're likely just itching for some kind of fun. Fun, is it? Harriet considers and mentally shrugs. Fine, let's have some fun. What do you suggest? Ever been spire hopping? Gigi asks, and Harriet considers. No, but it sounds like we're jumping from one of these big city towers to another. Jumping down, actually. You do need some basic gear, but it's not hard to find, and any adept can skip that part entirely. And where do we get that? Oh, any corner store, really. Spire hopping is as much a way to get around as a way to have fun, Gigi explains as the bus comes to a stop. Come on, she says, and Harriet follows somewhat reluctantly. Before we do much more, as a nurse, you should have the answer to a question that's been on my mind, she asks, and Gigi looks confused. I'm sure you have a lot of them, provided that the Dauntless and everything that came from it isn't some insane stunt, as some people insist, Gigi remarks as she slows her walking pace down considerably. How does all this happen? Harriet asks, gesturing to Gigi, who blinks before snorting in amusement. You could stand to be a little more specific, Harriet, darling, Gigi returns. I mean the huge breasts and ass, and there being so many more women than men and women doing all the work? Harriet asks, and Gigi just smiles. It's not so hard to keep straight. It goes to basic instinct and axiom, Gigi explains. The current evolutionary theory is that since axiom is shaped by sentient minds, there are a few natural conclusions that are reached by any being capable of thought. These are, I want to live, I want to win, and I want to have children. Now, most races, your own being the only known exception, evolve surrounded by axiom, so it helps guide our evolution. Okay, but how does that make the difference between me and you? Harriet asks. Well, the first two are obvious. It makes us stronger and faster, so we can win fights and run away if we have to. Fight and flight, I think I've heard it called. The last is fornication, to breed and get as much as you can. Hence why I look like this. There being more women than men? Harriet pushes. In early development, we all struggle for food and safety. The less there are to feed, the better. You need at least one woman for each birth, but one man can facilitate hundreds by himself. With the axiom, neither sex is any better than the other at hunting and fighting and working, and as such women are more valuable genetically and are more often born, it's just more useful to have a daughter. Men are then made very valuable through scarcity. Gigi explains, and Harriet tries to think over it. I suppose, but is there a way to not get stared at? She asks, and Gigi gives her an odd look. Harriet gestures around them, and there are a great many different passing women make a point of looking away as Gigi looks around. She doesn't miss it, though. Ah, I see. That I can help with, Gigi says, reaching for Harriet, then pausing. If you'll let me. I'm a medical professional, so I need your consent. What are you about to do? With you humans as the exception, all races have a certain endowment from axiom. It feeds us and shapes us. If I focus, I can see that you just exist within it. You're starting to subconsciously shape it. But it will take years before you begin feeding off the surrounding axiom. I can speed that up. It's a not too uncommon problem for those who've had stressful upbringings to have an odd twist or three or even a weak point in a person's axiom presence. Gigi explains. I have to admit it sounds more like you're talking about religion than anything real, Harriet says, and Gigi gives her an odd look. You don't have faith? Gigi asks, and Harriet shrugs. I never found any proof of some great all-powerful being that looks out for me. No big man in the sky encouraging me to do good. She mutters with more than a touch of bitterness as past disappointments and frustrations bubble up in her mind. Wait, you were part of what's that word? Monotheistic religion? Gigi asks, and Harriet just looks confused. You don't know that word? It didn't come up in training. What's it mean? It means to follow one God. Gigi explains, and Harriet nods. Yes, Christian and Catholic are the two big ones back home, and they're branches of the same faith. I never bought into it. Well, if you want something to believe in, there's a lot of different ones to go by locally. Me? I believe in the Gestalts. That all around us, born in the axiom, are spirits created by the thoughts of the people in it. shaping and shifting as time goes and forever holding tiny slivers made of all the people that contributed. Even when I'm dead and gone, some small pieces of me will remain in the gestalts. Gigi admits. Enough with religion. I don't like talking about it, Harriet says, and Gigi gives her an odd look. Fine, but never mind. We were talking about the axiom presence and how you people off that ship all have mostly unformed ones, though I've heard rumors of some with very strong axiom presences that are both very young and very vigorous with strange shapes within them. The Nerd Squad, Harriet says. The what? A group of obsessives without social skills. To keep himself busy, a master at social skills manually taught them everything they were lacking in. They also jumped on the very idea of axioms so hard that most of them were adepts after about a week of having access to it. So that rumor of the man dancing on water with an Alpuck battle princess is true? That was Vernon Shea and his wife Mira Noir. He's one of the Nerd Squad that was rotated out of the ship early. Okay, as interesting as this all is, we've gone far off topic. Do you want me to help you with your axiom presence? It's a very quick and easy thing to do. Gigi offers, and there's a loud, ahem, to the right. An old, pale and wrinkled Nagasha wrapped in a large woven shawl regards them oddly. She has no arms to be seen, and the slight rattle of her tail seems to quiet the local area. Pardon Granny for interrupting young'uns, but did you just say you're going to be helping the girl with her axiom presence? She asks. Gigi replies with wide eyes. Because if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. Now, old Granny here is a proper axiom adept, not just a medical teacher, but a master of the art in its length and breadth. Would you mind terribly if she helped? Granny offers with a fanged smile. Look, lady, I'm sure you mean well, but... That's the spirit, young'un. Now hold still, Granny exclaims, and her tail rattles loudly and there's a pulse of energy. Harriet staggers back as she loses her balance and struggles for a few seconds to find it. Her breasts have each been expanded to the size of her head, and a quick grab at her own bottom tells her that she's been made just as absurd as all the other girls wandering around. There! Granny can still cook up a storm, she can. You should feel a lot better now, young'un. Have a good day and don't forget to smile. You've always got something to be grateful for. The withered old crone of a snake says before slithering into nothingness. What just happened? Harriet demands as she beholds the monstrosities bouncing off her chest. Oddly enough, there's no pain. Actually, there's a lack of pain in her everything. She feels good, really good. That was an older Deep Crag Nagasha. The whole race have powerful axiom totems growing out of their tails and connected straight to their spines. All but the dimmest and dumbest are some of the most powerful beings in any room they care to enter. Gigi remarks with an evaluating expression as she examines Harriet. Still, she did an amazing job. You look to be in excellent health. You could vanish in a crowd of Tret. How am I going to explain this to the ship? Harriet demands. She can already see the judging, disgusted eyes of the other women on board, like she choose to look like a blow-up doll from some teenager's most depraved fuck fantasy. I'm willing to serve as witness. Couple that with you knowing whatever languages there are on your homeworld and your own details, you should be able to convince them easily enough, let alone what a DNA test or a fingerprint test will turn out. Gigi offers, and Harriet lets out a groan. I'm going to have to, aren't I? God damn this crazy world, and I won't fit any of my uniforms or... Hey, wait. She shifted my clothing too. Well, yes, otherwise she would have stripped you naked in public and that would be improper. Though I'm surprised you haven't noticed your hair yet, Gigi remarks, and Harriet feels the back of her head and finds that the small ponytail in her naturally curly hair is now swinging down to mid-back as a cascading waterfall. A quick examination, and it's gone from a dull brown into a shimmering chestnut. After a few moments, she pulls out her communicator and doesn't bother to activate it, just gazing at her own face in the reflective screen. She's beautiful, and there's not a trace of makeup to be found. It's all natural now.